Hello friends, so today we'll be talking about human heart. So starting with the introduction part. So as you know, human heart is the most essential organ that sustains life. So if our heart is not working, that means we are not alive. So heart is very important organ. It is about the size of a clenched fist. So if we clench our fist, the size that fist gives is exactly the same as the size of the human heart, and it is a muscular organ. It functions throughout a person's life and pumps almost 200 million liters of blood. It is the hardest working muscle in the human body as it beats roughly 2.5 billion times during the entire lifespan. So now talking about the position of human heart in the body. So always remember that it is not entirely towards the left or not entirely towards the center or the right. It is slightly towards the left. It is tilted. So it is located between the lungs, behind, and slightly towards the left of the sternum. Sternum is our breastbone. So it is located slightly towards the left. So two-thirds of the human heart is situated on the left side, whereas the remaining, that is one-third, is placed on the right side of the chest. Now comes the functions of the heart. So it maintains a constant flow of blood throughout the body, replenishes oxygen and circulates the nutrients among the cells and tissues. It also ensures adequate blood pressure that is maintained in the body, and that is the normal blood pressure is 120 by 80 mm of mercury. Now talking about the types of circulation. So basically there are three types of circulation. One is pulmonary circulation, the second is systemic, and the third is coronary. So first talking about pulmonary. Pulmonary obviously means it is related to the lungs. So it is the circulation that carries deoxygenated blood from the heart. So when the blood is deoxygenated, that means it does not contain oxygen but it contains carbon dioxide. So it is taken from the right part, that is right side of the heart, from the right ventricle to the lungs, and then it there occurs purification of the blood, that is exchange between oxygen and carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide from the blood goes to the lungs and that is exhaled out, and oxygen enters the blood and then it is transported to left atria. From there it enters left ventricle. So the circulation that involves just the lungs, deoxygenate blood from the heart to the lungs, and then lungs oxygenize the blood and then it gets back to the heart. That is called as pulmonary circulation. Next is systemic circulation. It is a type of circulation in which oxygenated blood, that is in present in the right ventricle, sorry, in left ventricle, is pumped from the heart to every organ and tissue in the body and then back again to the heart. That is called as systemic circulation. And the third is coronary circulation. That is, in this, oxygenated blood is supplied to the heart for supplying blood throughout the body. Now we'll be talking about the structure of the heart. As you know, the heart is about the size of the human fist, the clenched fist, and it is divided into four chambers. The two upper chambers are called the atria or the auricles. Atrium is the singular form, and the two lower chambers are called the ventricles. So there are two atria, that is left atrium and the right atrium, and there are two ventricles, left ventricle and the right ventricle. Atria are present at the upper part, upper region, and the ventricles are positioned downwards. So atria are thin and less muscular and smaller than the ventricles. They are because they are the blood receiving organs. They receive the blood receiving chambers that are fed by the large veins. Whereas ventricles, they are large and more muscular because they have to pump or push the blood out for the circulation. So these are connected to the large arteries that deliver blood for circulation. So the ventricles pump blood. That is right ventricle, it pumps the deoxygenated. Always remember the right side contains deoxygenated blood and the left side of the heart contains oxygenated blood. So right side, the right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So it pumps to the lungs. How does it go to the lungs? Via pulmonary artery for reoxygenation. And the left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood to the entire body via aorta. And the left and the right region of the heart are separated by a wall that is muscular and is called as septum. Left auricle receives oxygenated blood from the lungs via pulmonary vein, and the right auricle receives deoxygenated blood from the body via vena cava. There are two types of vena cava. One is superior vena cava and the other is inferior. Superior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from the superior body parts, that means the upper body parts like the brain, the eyes, etc. And the inferior vena cava brings the blood from the lower body parts. Now we'll be talking about the external structure of the heart. Pericardium is a fiber membrane found as an external covering around the heart. It protects the heart by producing a serous fluid that lubricates the heart and prevents friction between the surrounding organs. So it is lubricating the serous fluid. So pericardium also helps by holding the heart in its position. So heart is always in a specific position. It does not keep on changing its position. If you think that heart is pumping, so the position might be changing. No, it remains in the same position throughout. It also helps by holding the heart in its position and by maintaining a hollow space for the heart to expand itself when it is full. So basically pericardium has two exclusive layers. One is the visceral and the other is a parietal layer. So visceral layer, it directly covers outside of the heart, and the parietal layer forms a sac around the outer region of the heart that contains the fluid in the pericardial cavity. Now talking about the structure of the heart wall. The heart wall is made up of three layers. The one outermost is the epicardium, and then comes the myocardium, and the innermost is the endocardium. So talking about epicardium, it is the outermost layer of the heart that is composed of thin layer of membrane that lubricates and protects the outer section. Then comes myocardium. So that is a layer of muscular tissue and constitutes the middle wall of the heart, and it contributes to the thickness and responsible for the pumping of the heart, because it is muscular and heart is muscular, it keeps on pumping. So that is responsible, that is done by the myocardium. And the innermost is the endocardium that lines the inner heart chambers and covers the heart valves. It also prevents the blood from sticking to the inner walls of the heart. So now coming to blood vessels, the external structure of the heart has many blood vessels that form a network with the major blood vessels that emerge from the heart. Basically, there are three types of blood vessels. One are the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries. So arteries always carry oxygenated blood, but exception is pulmonary artery that carries deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle to the lungs. And veins, they always carry deoxygenated blood, that is blood that contains carbon dioxide, not oxygen. But the exception is pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood that is oxygenized in the lungs, and pulmonary vein carries it to the left atrium. So veins, they supply the oxygen blood to the heart via superior and inferior vena cava, and it eventually drains into the right atrium. And always remember, they are superficial. The ones that we can see in our body, the green or the bluish color, these are the veins. Then comes the arteries. They are the muscular wall tubules that carry oxygenated blood away from the heart to other parts of the body. They are deep seated. Aorta is the largest artery and the vena cava is the largest vein. Don't forget, these are the most important questions. So aorta branches off into various smaller arteries throughout the body. And then the third type of blood vessel are the capillaries. They are tiny tube-like vessels which form a network between the arteries to veins. So now coming to the valves, they are the flap of fibrous tissues located in the cardiac chambers between the veins. They ensure that the blood flow in the single direction. So valves means they prevent the backflow of the blood. They ensure that the blood flows in a single direction, that is unidirectional. And now talking about the two types of valves. One is the atrioventricular valve. So as the name suggests, atrioventricular means these valves are present between the atria and ventricles. So they are the valves between atria and ventricles. The valve that is present between the right atria and right ventricle is called as tricuspid valve, and it prevents the backflow of blood from right ventricle to right atria. Whereas the valve that is present between the left atria and the left ventricle is called as bicuspid or the mitral valve. And then talking about the other type of valve, that is semilunar valves. They are located between the left ventricle and aorta. So when the left ventricle pumps the blood to aorta, which is the largest artery that is supposed to pump blood to all body parts, so that left ventricle and aorta, in between them there is valves that are called as semilunar valves, that prevents the backflow of blood, that the blood should not flow back to the left ventricle. And similarly, semilunar valves are also present between the pulmonary artery and right ventricle, so as to prevent the backward flow of blood. So now the last topic will be talking about the circulation. As we have talked, heart performs double circulation, that is pulmonary as well as the systemic circulation. So now starting with the circulation part. So as you can see in the picture, so the right auricle, that is the one that is carrying the right entry, also called as right atrium, that is carrying the deoxygenated blood. It receives the deoxygenated blood via vena cava, that is superior, and the inferior vena cava, pre-cava, that is superior, and the post-cava, that is inferior. So the deoxygenated blood that is received from vena cava from the entire body part is transferred to the right atrium. From right atrium, the tricuspid valve opens and the blood enters the right ventricle, and from the right ventricle through pulmonary artery, you can see the blood is going to the lungs, and in the lungs the there occurs the oxygenation. That means the carbon dioxide from the blood leaves and enters the lungs, whereas oxygen from the lungs enters the blood. So the pulmonary vein carries the oxygenated blood from the lungs to the left atrium. From the left atrium, when the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve opens, the blood enters the left ventricle, and from left ventricle, which is the thickest of all the ventricles and the most muscular, it pumps the blood to the aorta, which is the largest artery, and the aorta distributes the blood to the entire body parts through various arterial um, small capillaries, and the body tissues. There again occurs the exchange, that is when the blood is filled with carbon dioxide, the capillaries form the vena cava and it again enters the right side of the heart, and this circulation continues throughout. So students, I hope you like the video and you could get the entire concept of the human heart and the circulation. Please like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.